Hi, in this video I am going to the analyze of the article Black Dye. I will answer some questions. Yes, I did lie because thanks for it. I learned about a disease that suffered Europe and this article to help me to improve my reading comprehension. The principal character is the population of Europeans. Um, in any occasion, I'm considering that the principal character is the population of China because in this country the disease starts. This history is about the terrible disease that people suffered from Europe. This history explains the origin and the consequence that bubonic plague had. This disease caused the death of more of the middle of population. Also about the worldwide spread. It's likely that this disease doesn't reappear. However, there could be another similarity disease. The current medicine could be controlled for future disease. The history begins by explaining that in Europe between 1347 from 1349, the population faced a terrible disease, the bubonic plague, better called Black Death. Europe was a place where people walked or went on horseback, or went by boat, or had communication technology. But weather and bad conditions in other places did not allow farmers to feed their families or neighbors. So they decided to go to Europe where they found what they needed. When they arrived, they turned the city into a disaster when they threw all the waste in the water. Drew touched on the streets and there were too many rats. Some people would understand that the rats were part of the problem, since pouring hygiene and the act of drinking water dirty made a bacterium appear, Yersinia pestis. It was transported by rats that were everywhere. This plague began in China in the year 30. Now this place moves very fast Middle Age. People travel continually. People from Europe traveled to Asia to buy space. Then they went and returned by land or in ships, and in this way the rats that had the bacteria were transported from China to Europe. In 1347, the plague arrived in Eastern Europe in the Black Sea. In October that year, a ship arrived in Italy that stopped in this sea. This ship arrived in Messina in Sicilia, Italy. Several sailors died. Later, several inhabitants died from Messina. 2 years later, all of northern Europe was infected, and at the end of 1349, the cities of Scotland and Norway were infected. But Poland and central Lithuania were not infected. The writer Giovanni Boccaccio wrote a book that described how the disease will last 3 days, and it all started with black smell bombs, and then with fever, and then blood to death. Other doctors and people claimed that this disease was caused by stars or God. But the superstition did not hear. Since no matter what people ate or drank, people died. Some extremistic people blamed the Jews, and in 1349, 2,000 Jews died burned, just like their families. So they moved to unaffected cities. In 1949, the disease died, but it has not disappeared. Since it continued to appear, it's a very fast and deadly disease. In 1665, the plague appeared in Greece, then in Marseille, Vienna, Moscow, and other cities, leaving many dead. In other countries, such as India and China, the plague remains a problem. This happened between 1855 and 1929. In recent years, this disease was detected in Madagascar, Tanzania, Brazil, Peru, Myanmar, and Vietnam. Every year, people die with their families. Currently, this disease has not manifested. However, this doesn't mean that it disappeared, since it's likely like new bacteria will appear that cause the same result, but the advantage now is that there is necessary medical progress to combat them. So far, something like this hasn't happened in my country. But there is the threat of the coronavirus that was similarly detected for the first time in China and born out of bacterium that occurs in animals and mutants in humans. They have certificated one death and several infections. This article is not fiction because it is based on real events. I feel very afraid since there is no enormous similar disease than this coronavirus that could cause the same damage.